Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. But today we're not talking about bad comics. Just like last week. And the week before. And the episode that, someday we're gonna actually start talking about bad comics again. Today, however, we have another Patreon-sponsored review, the comic strip My Cage. I can't help but relate to that title a little, given this show. And although I'm usually disinclined to review web-based comic stuff, this one can get away with it because from 2007 to 2010, My Cage was an actual newspaper strip. Speaking of, comic strips are a bit of new territory for us, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm not as familiar with the tropes of it as—
Don't worry, Linkara. I shall assist you in this matter.
What?
I'm your comic strip critic, and I run a show that talks exclusively about comic strips. You can check it out here. Oh, and this is my text. Shut up.
Oh, for the love of— Can I not go 2 weeks without a cameo anymore?
Wait. I thought you wanted cameos.
Where'd you get that idea from?
From Beth Elderkin over at Shark Jumping.
This'll teach him not to listen to our ideas.
Hey, have you seen my phone?
Shut up, Tim! This is important!
Anyway, the point is, I'm at your disposal for any information you want about comic strip knowledge and lore.
Well, thank you for the offer, but I don't think I'll need the help.
Oh, but Linkara, you will.
No, I won't.
Well, it was worth a shot.
So anyway, let's dig into the first year of My Cage.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a pretty hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
The world is a vampire sent to drain. Secret destroy.
The odd thing to me about the strip is that press releases related to it describe it as manga-inspired, while the artist of the comic, Melissa DeJesus, and while I don't know if that's the correct way to pronounce that name, it is the most awesome way, has done some work for Tokyo Pop, there's nothing really in My Cage that I would describe as manga-inspired. The art is really no different than any other funny animals kind of story that exists out there. Oh yeah, and another thing Melissa DeJesus worked on with Ed Power, the writer, a comic initially made for DC Comics' brief attempt at a webcomics imprint, Zuda Comics, that was called Santa vs. Dracula. And if that hasn't been made into a movie yet, why the hell not? The other thing that's kind of weird for me about reviewing this is that, well, by its very nature as a gag-a-day strip, there isn't really an ongoing story to critique here. The idea is to have it so that anybody who buys a newspaper can pick it up, get some quick chuckles, and then put it down again. That being said, it of course has a main character and a supporting cast. These are the adventures of Norm T. Platypus, who works at MacGuffin Incorporated, where he manufactures briefcases with glow-in-the-dark interiors. Actually, his job is— I don't know. His job seems to involve talking to customers, or just being at work and doing office-y cubicle things, but it's never quite clear what the job is exactly. Which is kind of a problem considering the title of the strip and its premise is about how Norm is kind of miserable at his job. He's described as a supervisor, and at one point his boss tells him that he basically lets him run the place, except nobody seems to follow his directions, and, well, they're all kind of dicks to him. Hell, it's not limited to his coworkers. His girlfriend, Bridget T. Dog, more on that in a bit, is at first worried about him having an attractive new coworker, but when she sees her, she says her jealousy is over because she's too attractive for Norm, and she'd never date him. Which raises a lot of points, starting with, wow, you're a jerk, but ending on, wait, do you have a lot of self-loathing and concern about your own looks then? Then again, Norm is not exactly immune to being a dick himself. Aside from being kinda clueless about Bridget's feelings and concerns at times, he tends to think privately about how some of his coworkers suck, or even openly insults one in particular, who I'll get to a bit later. By that same token though, everyone gets along well enough despite the insults. I get the impression that it's meant to be more good-natured ribbing. It just doesn't necessarily come off that way at times. It's like how real people can insult one another but laugh about it. And that's just life. Which is what this is, a slice of life comic. And that's okay. I think after last week, which featured warring cyborg factions in the future fighting over galactic domination and time travel hijinks, we need something a bit more down to earth. Featuring animals writing emails about how miserable they are. Although, there is the occasional instance where I think they go too far, like when Norm's coworker Ashley created a voodoo doll of Norm out of office supplies, declaring it to be a ritualistic stabbing doll since she didn't know voodoo. Norm, when your coworkers are discussing how they want to stab an effigy of you, it might be time to start polishing up the old resume. The two have an odd relationship, mostly revolving around Ashley trying to make him suffer, seemingly just for her own amusement, but he doesn't seem to mind all that much other than mild annoyance. Occasionally, the early strips are just bizarre. For example, there's one strip about an orange shark named Jeff, because sharks can breathe outside the water in this universe, and work office jobs, despite only having fins, where he asks Norm if he's the office knucklehead, which Norm assures him that he's important and respected, but then privately thinks that the K is silent for knucklehead. I've never heard of the term knucklehead in my entire life, and a quick Google search doesn't reveal what the hell that is, unless they meant Canuck, meaning the office Canadian? Are American offices known for having token Canadians? Or is the joke that he's an idiot because he got the word wrong? Except knucklehead is already viewed by him as an insult regardless of the mispronunciation, so I don't get it. There's another one where Norm mentions that Bridget says he should get a second belt. After all, she was right on the money about buying a second towel. Now one of us can shower even when the other is washing dishes.
That's the joke.
Mind you, that's the problem with gag-a-day strips. Occasionally, there will be days where it's just not funny. You can't be expected to always be funny on a regular basis. I mean, it'd be like having to produce a weekly show without any vacation or break for 6.5 years, where you're expected to be funny, intelligent, insightful, and entertaining, and they just won't let me stop! Ah! Anyway, speaking of Jeff, he does unfortunately come across as an idiot to everyone. Shows how much they know. He's the only dude in the office who gets to work from a bathtub. Norm's more than a bit of a geek himself, even at one point imagining himself in Return of the Jedi and rescuing Bridget in the Slave Leia bikini as Luke. Wait, he's imagining himself as Luke and his girlfriend as Leia, Luke's sister. Yeah, it's really no surprise that he's also in therapy. Mind you, that could also be the signs of depression he seems to show, but nah, it's probably the fantasies. Although, speaking of, he did bring up a good point once. Why the hell don't the Jedi and Sith just use the Force to turn their opponents' lightsabers off? Now, before you start posting your explanations in the comments, I should tell you I already know the answer. Because then there wouldn't be a movie. I am rather confused about the animal nature of this universe. Of course, everybody is an anthropomorphic animal, but everybody's last names are their animal. So, like, is this just a massive coincidence, or do their last names in this society not actually refer to a proper last name as much as it does just identifying species for people who are socially clueless? And the majority of animals that we see are mammals. Is there a Rufus T. dung beetle out there? And yeah, everybody has the T middle name, indicating that everyone's middle name is the. What happens if two of the same species request the same name? Is there a legal thing they have to file, or is it just so infrequent that nobody worries about it? Hell, in one instance, we actually get the reverse. There's a reference to the actress Salmon Hayek. Did she change her name to that, or does fish culture in this universe reverse the names? At one point, they mention Tim Burton's Bat movies. Bat? Look, I just get confused sometimes about what species I am. It's not made any easier when my sidekick is still named Robin. And yet later, Super Animal is brought up, so I don't know what the hell's going on there. There is one strip where Norm is talking to Jeff about how their ancestors used their body parts, like poison spurs and multiple rows of teeth, to fight off predators and consume prey and whatnot. Plus, the website this is hosted on, Go Comics, describes the strip as being in the future, and thus animals evolved into their current forms. So, a planet where apes evolved from men, but also where office workers evolved from platypuses. And yet Kevin Bacon apparently exists in this world. Or is Kevin Bacon a pig here? Wait, do the animals eat bacon in this world? Are these people cannibals? Because this is supposed to resemble the human world of today, they still require pets. The solution to this is a pet amoeba. A giant amoeba, but said amoeba, named Squishy, is actually adorable and endearing. However, at one point, they encounter a mouse who has a dog on a leash, confusing Bridget until Norm reveals that the dog has a disease where he thinks he's non-anthropomorphic. But then why is the mouse humoring his delusions? Norm has his own ideas for revitalizing franchises. And they're glorious ones at that. For example, there's his idea of taking a bunch of old 80s girls cartoons and turning them all into an elite commando team. Cute Force. It features My Little Warhorse, Sergeant Shortcake, Rambo Bright, and turns that lion Care Bear into Lion-O from Thundercats. Cute Force. Adorable and deadly. Another idea? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory of Doom, wherein Willy Wonka, or the ram-based equivalent of the animal world, recruits the 4 problem children from the story into an elite commando team to fight Charlie, who has been putting mind control drugs in the chocolate and now has an army of Oompa Loompa ninjas. How is this platypus working in some corporate office when he is coming up with ideas like these? I bet in this universe he invented Santa versus Dracula. You know what does bug me about the strip? The word balloons. Aside from the fact that they seem to be drawn before actually fitting the text into them, the font choice is annoying. It's not Comic Sans, at least it didn't appear to be when I put some Comic Sans right next to it, but it looks really damn close. What's worse is that occasionally there's some handwritten text that, say, Norm wrote in his journal, and that looks so much better than the word balloon stuff. If there is an ongoing story, it's just the recurring theme of Norm trying to figure out if it was worth sacrificing his own personal happiness for working in a soul-crushing corporate environment in order to get his paycheck. Although, as I kept noticing while reading this, it's not so much the job doing that as much as it is Norm's coworkers. From Ashley digging through his stuff without permission and just doing little things to make him unhappy, to Violet, another egotistical coworker who just seems to loathe other people as a general rule, to his boss, Max, who flaunts his wealth and luxuries in front of Norm to make him feel inferior. Maybe Norm doesn't suffer from depression so much as he does suffer from a group of sociopaths. Less sociopathic and more fun is a recurring gag in the strip involving a coworker named Steve. He continually calls in sick with increasingly more ludicrous rationales for why he can't come in, from just existential ennui, or to him being abducted by aliens, although that one actually happened. While the punchline refers to the boy who cried wolf, or the other way around in the animal world, and how if you always tell lies, nobody will believe you, honestly I applaud Steve for the alternate lesson you get from that story.
That you should never tell the same lie twice.
Norm's issues are also made evident near the end of the first year of the strip, where we meet his dad and brother. His dad is the happiest man on Earth! Meaning that when Norm proposes a toast to them meeting Bridget and saying she completes his life, the dad complains about that meaning that the love from his family didn't complete him. Norm's dad walks through life with a song in his heart and a smile on his soul. Yeah, he loves to complain and moan, to the point where he never has anything positive to say about Norm, nothing to compliment him about, and just generally has been a dick to him his entire life. It's that kind of love and affection that makes me wonder how the hell Norman didn't end up as a serial killer with his father as his first victim. Unfortunately, I don't really know what it is that brought about the end of My Cage, because honestly, it doesn't suck. Sure, there's the occasional strip that's not funny, but overall, I laughed quite a few times. It did get a proper conclusion to the story too, which is more than even some comic books get out there. I actually recommend it if you have a long afternoon and want to just read something, since all the strips are running as reruns on Go Comics. Slice of life stuff isn't really to my usual tastes, but it's amusing, and since it only lasted for 3 years, you don't have to worry too much about getting bored with it before it wraps up. The artwork is fairly basic and cartoony, seeing as it's a cartoon and all, and it tells its story well, probably with more detailing to it than a lot of strips I've seen out there. Hell, Dilbert has gotten away with mocking office culture for 26 years, and most of its strips feature blank walls and gradient backgrounds. So yeah, check it out, especially if you're into slice-of-life stuff about platypuses who regain their dignity despite the constant attempt by their friends and loved ones to crush their spirit. Next week, The Punisher! And a whole lot of what the hell were they thinking?
Linkara, I assure you, you will need my help.